Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mainstream Indie Music Channel. We talk about all things indie music. And before we begin, let me just apologize for my voice. I was actually doing a lot of vocal work and some singing, a lot of All American Rejects. But anyway, that's kind of why my voice might be a little raspy right now, so I apologize if I sound a little weird. And it's kind of funny because this week's episode, you couldn't have picked a softer voice. You know, Sam Beam or Iron and Wine is just a really unique talent. And you, it's really difficult because I know, like, researching this topic, part of my research I like to do is I like to hear a lot of what you could kind of say the common people's opinion of the song or the album or whatever I'm researching. And I like to dig on forums like Reddit and other online forums and so forth. And nowadays, you know, people kind of, I wouldn't say look down on Iron and Wine, but nowadays you can go on YouTube and find an extremely talented, overproduced, you know, person playing a cover of a song, putting their own spin on it, and so on and so forth. And I'm not trying to take away from the talent of either side. You know, I'm not trying to take away from the talent of Iron and Wine, and I'm not trying to take away the talent of the aforementioned, you know, YouTuber or person on TikTok for the amazing talent that they have. If anything, I wish everyone could showcase their talents and kind of get a platform and have a chance to make it big. But alas, when Iron and Wine was getting big, YouTube was not a thing like that. You know, people covering songs was not a thing back then. And so that's why I don't like that argument, you know, of like, oh, well, you know, I could find a cover of Such Great Heights acoustic on YouTube that's 100 times better than Iron and Wine's one. And it's like, you know, well, number one, I doubt that's true. But number two, even if it is, it was about the time and place that when this was made. You know, I guess this is kind of a disclaimer before I go into the video. This was early 2000s to mid 2000s. You know, the internet was not as we know it today. You know, if anything, we're almost going back 20 years at this point that this song was released. That's how long ago that we're going. But let's get a little bit into Iron and Wine's history before we go into the actual making and kind of distribution of the song that he covered. Now, there was no question that Samuel Beam was a person who no doubt had an artistic side to him. From a young age, not only did he get into music and playing instruments, but he also got into film, becoming, getting into photography and so forth. He always just kind of had that side to him. And so that's what he decided to go to college for. In fact, he earned a degree in music, and not only that, but he became an actual professor of cinematography. So, you know, again, Samuel was definitely a person who had the talent behind him. He knew what art was. He had a great, intelligent understanding of it. And one day, a friend of his just decided, you know, to be like, hey, you should take this recording equipment and you should kind of just produce your own music. And of course, that's what he did. In fact, one cool thing that he did was after he made his first set of demos, he handed those demos to a good friend of his called Michael Bridwell, who is actually the brother of the lead singer of another indie rock group that I've covered on this channel, Band of Horses, Samuel Bridwell. So pretty cool connection there. Now, this next part is, I don't know if Samuel just caught extremely good luck. I don't know if it was because of just good fortune and timing, or whether it was just knowing the right people, getting the right things out into the universe and they kind of take over, or honestly, if it was a combination of all three things. But pretty much what happens is from 2002 to 2004, everything just fell into a straight line for him. Because let's take it piece by piece here. In 2002, that's when, as under his stage name Iron and Wine, he released his very first album, which did pretty well on his, I believe it was called like the Major Pop label was what it was released on. Um, but then not only that, again, like I said, I don't know if it was his connections in the music industry, but they said, hey, there's this huge band coming out called the Postal Service, and there's a song that they are releasing called Such Great Heights. In fact, it's going to become their number one lead song and single off their album, and we think you should do a cover of that song. And so pretty much with Ben Gibbard's full blessing, he covers the song, and it gets, not only does it get released on a charity album, but the song actually gets released on, I think it was like on the full CD release, or if there was a second CD release of the Postal Service Give Up, it was included in the Postal Service album, along with the Shins doing a cover as well, so of another song. But that's pretty cool. He got the full blessing of Ben Gibbard and the Postal Service and got it released on their album. So if anything, that's just drawing more attention to him. But then not only that, but it was also selected by Zach Braff, if you know who he is from Scrubs. In the early 2000s, he couldn't miss, and he started to make small indie films. One of these films, which I really feel like I need to talk about one day, was called The Garden State. And it's not so much about the movie, but it's the soundtrack to it is what got a lot of indie songs from the early 2000s popular. And surprise, surprise, this song by Iron and Wine was picked to be on that album. So once again, you got even more people checking out his song and his cover. So just extremely good fortune that he had. And of course, today's video is more so just on him and that song, but maybe one day we're actually going to go into the full career of Samuel Beam and Iron and Wine and kind of go into what they've been into up until our day today. But the song is fantastic. If you love acoustic covers, it's definitely probably one that you've heard before. Me personally, I like both versions, but I'm definitely going to have to give it to the Postal Service. I think that song is one of the best songs of, pretty much this decade. But I want to hear what y'all think. Which version do you like? And I will see y'all next week. I have a pretty busy schedule next week, just a heads up. I don't know when the next video will be released next week, but I will see y'all then.